Hi guys, welcome back. It's UK here. Last week I had a response on one of my vids from Games for You, asking if I could do a video about the card game Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering is one of, if not the first, collectible card game to appear in the very early 90s, and was the creation of Richard Garfield and has been published ever since by Wizards of the Coast. It's a collectible card game, which means there is what's called a base set, which has a starter, or usually a starter, and then random 15 card boosters with which to expand your collection. Cards having a rarity from common, uncommon, rare, and in recent years mythic rare. And it's a deck building game. Basically, you build your deck out of the cards you own, and trying to achieve a certain end, which is the victory for yourself. Either you win by removing your opponent's life total from its starting value of 20 to 0, or you run them out of cards, or you give them 10 poison tokens. And it's a very popular game. The fact that it's been going for 20 years now, there are major tournaments with some very hefty prizes if you go to the big ones, shows just how popular the game is. The premise of the game, in its backstory, is that you, the player, take on the role of what's called a planeswalker, which is essentially a demigod or godlike figure, able to draw energy from the very worlds that he visits, in order to achieve any effect pretty much that he can think of. And as such, the cards represent places that your planeswalker has visited, the creatures and heroes / villains that he has encountered, and the various thought forms, whatever that his spells take form and generate, as well as artifacts that he has seen or encountered. And you use these effects to, as I say, win the game through one of the prescribed methods. The original concept of the game back in the day was that each plane of existence, because there is a central world called Dominaria, which in the current timeline is a bit of a ruin, as I recall now, and you have various planes that drift around it or drift through its orbit for a time and disappear, explaining why certain expansions don't stay around, sort of thing. And the idea is that each plane can only generate a certain amount of energy to support one planeswalker. And so planeswalkers would duel to see who ruled over a given plane. These days, with the introduction of planeswalker cards in the game, it's more a case of it's fighting a rivalry and you can call upon allied planeswalkers to help you, sort of thing. The essential gameplay is very simple. I mean, the card types you have lands, which are your core thing. You cannot play the game without lands. And you have basic lands, which represent the 5 colours of Magic. White, which is the power of life and healing and protection. You've got, which is generated from planes. You've got blue, which is the elements of air and water, plus illusion and trickery, which the basic land is an island. You have swamps, which is death and the unholy sort of thing, and the insanity, that's generated from swamps. You have red, which is the colour of chaos, the elements of earth and fire. It's also a very destructive colour, and that's generated from mountains. And then you have green, which is the power of life, the very force of nature itself, and that's generated by forests. Then you have non-basic lands, which also produce mana, but in an odd sort of fashion. And because there is it might generate a choice of 2, or it might generate a colour of your choice, but you take damage for doing it. But since there's a 4-card limit to anything except basic lands are generally the way to procure the energy you need, the mana, to cast spells. Spells come as instants, which are spells that can be played effectively any time in your turn or your opponent's. Sorceries, which are generally more powerful but are only playable in your turn. You have enchantments, which are either magical effects that stay in play, or they're magical effects that are attached to another card in play. You get creatures, which are the heroes, villains, monsters, and so you've encountered that you bring forth to do battle for you. Artifacts, which again are just magical items, some of which are equipment now, which are artifacts which will be equipped or attached to a creature, and you have Planeswalker allies. And as I say, you build your deck, and the idea is to build a deck that can beat your opponent. But because everybody builds decks in a certain way, or the way a deck plays out in the end, and because it's a random draw of cards, you can't always guarantee that you are going to win. But good players, good deck builders have that better chance. And the game has gone through a series of expansions, which give you extra cards, extra creatures, and so forth, all based around a theme. And for the first probably 10 years of the game's life, it was essentially following a storyline, which started off with the Brothers' War, which led to the devastation of Dominaria, the central world. It brought about an ice age. It brought about eventually an invasion by these rather biomechanical machine creatures called Phyrexians. A gathering of planeswalkers gets together to defeat them. But over time, the world becomes damaged by temporal rifts caused by experiments by one of the early planeswalkers, Teferi. After that, sets were kind of just based on the theme, and recently they've kind of been bringing, I'm not quite sure how the storyline goes, but they're bringing, by introducing the planeswalker cards, they've been introducing the rivalries and following a sort of series of a storyline that's based around this core set of planeswalkers and the experiences that they are having, or adventures you might say. I suppose it depends what you look at. That is kind of the basic of what the game is and where it's come from. What, if anything, no, I'll rephrase that. The game has good and bad. I mean, back in the day, I played it from about 96 through to probably 2000. So I played it for about, actually no, it'd be slightly before that actually. It'd probably be about 95 to 2000. 5 or 6 years. And the early stuff was very, very well balanced towards itself. There are a few cards which popped up here and there which were ridiculously powerful, but the majority of the game was nicely balanced. The game, however, has developed a power creep. And over the last 10 years or so, you have seen an awful lot of incredibly powerful, and I would even go so far to say somewhat broken cards making the rounds. Essentially, it seems that Wizards of the Coast now has to do, each set has got to be better than the last. Which I have to admit I don't like, and it's one of the reasons why I have issues with the game. Everything is far more powerful now. You know, where you have these rarities, you know, you start on the game playing commons, but by the time you get to anywhere, you know, playing even a semi-competitive level, you are playing just rares, because the rares are the cards that do, you know, the most damage or the most useful effects. And so it does lead to a horrible, hyper-competitive nature, especially in tournaments. And players like myself who enjoyed the original sort of storyline of the game and that sort of era are kind of left out, I think, somewhat now. The game just doesn't have the same fun. But when you come into it now as a new player, perhaps, I think you look at it and you go, wow, and it's probably your cup of tea. The game, however, I think its competitive nature has spoilt the game somewhat, but it's what's making money for Wizards of the Coast, so they're going to keep running with it. The other problem that the game has is a number of people refer to it as a money pit, and they are absolutely correct, because you are looking at least here in the UK, you are looking at about £12 to £15 for a single starter deck, although the decks are actually worth playing as opposed to when they first started doing these pre-constructed decks. But boosters are £3.50 for 15 cards, and when I started it was £2.10 for 15 cards, and that didn't seem quite so bad, but now you are going to have to spend a fortune to anyway get near a decent collection, or you're going to have to go on eBay or sites like that which sell individual cards, and anything that's actually worth having is going to basically cause you to remortgage your house. If you are the sort of player that likes the strong competitive angle, if you are the sort of person who enjoys the whole deck building experience and probably has the money to spare, then Magic the Gathering is probably for you. If, like me, you prefer a much more casual game, then probably Magic is not your cup of tea. But the game is going from strength to strength, and there's sets lined up 3 years in advance, sort of thing, as they're designing them and preparing them. It is the premier collectible card game, or trading card game as it seems to be called in the States, and it is that for a reason. So if it sounds like the sort of game you'd be interested in, then I suggest take a look at it. Get someone at your local game store to give you a trial game. Make sure you like it before you fork out any money on it. But if as I say, if you don't mind doing that and you enjoy it, then you've got yourself a good game to look forward to. That's my thoughts on Magic the Gathering. If there's any specific other questions anyone wants to ask about it, or something that I should have covered, then let me know and I'll do an extra video. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope for Games for you this was a helpful vid, and I look forward to any comments or what have you. So take care, until next time, good gaming.